Hello and welcome to lesson 35 of the Learning Guitar series. In this particular lesson we're going to discuss the Aeolian mode, so the sixth degree, the sixth chord in our harmonization of the major scale. Before we do that, I don't know if leading to this video you encountered advertising, YouTube advertising. I just want to let you know that it's not my doing. YouTube changed their policy, I think a couple of months back, where they can now advertise any video they want. I wanted to keep these lessons advertising free, and so I hope they're not putting advertising before or during or at the end of these particular lessons of mine. And if they are, I can only apologize for that. But bear in mind that YouTube is doing this without consent in a way. They can. I'm not making any penny out of it. It's not that they are paying me for that. But plus, as I told you, I hoped to keep it advertising free. So, failed from that point of view. Anyway, let's get into the lesson. So in this particular lesson, we're discussing the Aeolian mode. In the first 35 lessons, we discussed the three modes that derive from major scale. Ionian, so chord number 1, what relates to chord number 1. Dorian, so everything that relates to chord number 2. And Lydian, so everything that relates to chord number 5. This allowed us to cover major chords, not all of them, but some of them. So for chord number 1, minor chords, chord number 2, Dorian, and dominant 7 chords, Lydian. By the way, the fact that I'm saying chord number 1, chord number 2, chord number 5, it simply derives from the harmonization of a major scale. Let me show it to you. Here it is. This is a chart that you can also find in lesson 16. In lesson 16, we discussed the fact that I can take a major scale. So let's use C, is the most popular, I guess, but you can, you have them all in all keys here. And once harmonized, you have the following chords. Okay, so from C, D, E, F, G, A, B, we harmonized it. Harmonizing means deriving chords. So we had C, D minor, E minor, F major, G7, A minor, and F diminished. The actual sequence, major, minor, minor, major, dominant 7, minor, F diminished, as you can see, applies to any key you want to take. So that's why I said we studied chord number 1 and it was major, chord number 2 and it was minor, chord number 5 it was dominant 7, and it gave us a good excuse to tackle 3 family of chords, probably the most important, especially major and minor when it comes to popular music. In this case, for Aeolian, what I mean, we're looking at chord number 6. So in the key of C, we're looking at A minor. If it was key of F, D minor, keys don't matter in terms of when we're discussing shapes. Depending on the song, you figure out what's, in what key you're in. What's important to understand at this stage is we're going to look at Aeolian as a minor scale. In fact, more often than not, it's called a natural minor. And the intervals, the numbers that make this scale up. And more important, we're going to look at the differences with Dorian. This lesson is the first lesson where I can finally, in a way, show you chord scales or arpeggio for a particular mode all in one go. So this is going to be one lesson on Aeolian, while, say, Ionian, because of all the exercises connected to it, was, I think, 15 different videos. But given that background, if you started from the beginning, obviously, so all the exercises that go with the scales, and if you understood the concept, you can probably tackle this all in one go, because there is a lot of repetitions in a way. So what we need to focus mainly on is literally the difference in between Dorian and Aeolian, so that we can fill the gaps. When we studied Dorian, let's look at the horizontal stretcher. When we studied Dorian, we had a scale. Here is Dorian. This is written in the key of C. As you can see, these are all the modes, major modes at least, written all in the same key, so you can see the differences. So like C Ionian, C Dorian basically would be a B flat major, a B flat Ionian. But as I said, it's good to see modes this way, so you can confront the different numbers. So when we did the Ionian, the actual intervals from a C perspective, relative to C, were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you take those, those intervals and you have an Ionian scale or a major scale. For Dorian, we find out that it was minor because 1, flat 3, 5 puts this particular sequence of intervals into a minor realm. In fact, it can apply to minor chords. And the sequence was 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, natural 6, flat 7. Now that we are looking at the Aeolian, we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7. So actually the difference in between Dorian and Aeolian is literally one note, is this flat 6. And don't forget, 2 is equal to 9, 4, 11, and 6, 13, this kind of concept, because when we look at the arpeggios and when we look at the chords, that flat 6, which is also a flat 13, kind of will add an extra color to the possibility we have when we're phrasing like a minor chord. In other words, especially if you're playing jazz fusion or styles of music that allows to move around the colors of your chords, if you have an A minor and you approach it as Dorian, you can generate a bunch of chords, of course, like, basic chords, say, big A minor, or like A minor 7. But like we studied in Dorian, say if I wanted to add a 6th kind of color or a 13, I can, because it belongs to Dorian. Here is a minor 6. That's a typical Dorian type of sound, okay? If I wanted to add instead a mixed Aeolian type of sound, now the 6th is replaced by flat 6. So I have that kind of sound. Minor, minor 6. So A minor flat 6, or A minor flat 13. I'm sure you've heard this kind of progression is kind of common. A minor flat 6, A minor 6. Same thing, like if I add this flat 6 on the top notes, so like, here is my flat 6. Here is my natural 6. So here is basically Dorian. Aeolian, okay? Let's look at the difference in sound. So for example, from a point of view of the scale, let me use a drone. Let's do this in C. So our Dorian scale relative to C was 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, natural 6, flat 7, root note, and 2 octaves of it. Now for Dorian, for Aeolian, we have 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, root note, and the second octave. So basically the different notes is like 6th, natural 6, flat 6, natural 6, flat 6. Of course, once you come across this shape, you recognize it, because actually in terms of shape, you already studied it when we did Ionian. The beauty of the cage system, or the 3 notes per string, which is also covered in the first 15 lessons, is the fact that you don't have to study too many finger patterns. The finger patterns are the same, so you just have to learn how to move them around. It's in a way it's as easy as that. So like say if I had C minor, let's have a look at the shape. So like 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4. And this we just established that is C Aeolian. But if I do this, same shape, 1, 3, 4. Same pattern in terms of fingerings. 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 4, 1, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, kind of thing. Now this is Dorian, okay? Because I'm shifting it. This is a C note, 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, natural 6, flat 7, root note. but this is Aeolian. Dorian. So in a way, if you studied the properly Dorian, say like, let's look at it, you've probably done it at least in the key of G. So you had this, was G Dorian. So basically now you are shifting one note, the flat 6. So here is Aeolian. Sorry. Same thing. Here is the second shape, still Aeolian, so this is G. Shape of D minor. Then you have the shape of C minor. I prefer it like this. G minor, shape of A minor. And then you have G minor, shape of G minor, shape of G. And again, like, so the reason I say that the lesson 1 to 15 are important, because as you can see that the scale shapes are the same, and there is a lot of exercises you can do, which are written in those pages. Intervals, triads, group of 4, group of 3, etc. Have a look, and there's hundreds of pages of those things. And this is what allows me now to actually present you all the scales in one go. This is not musical material, as in, you're playing G minor, playing a scale up and down is not, it's a great exercise, but at the end of the day, it's not going to be music, it's just a letter in the alphabet. Those exercises to me are like words that you put in between before you start phrasing. So like, this kind of stuff. Which again is not necessarily like, this is just a word taken out from, the alphabet. This is another word. And then when you're playing, you might use fragmented this stuff. And then it becomes kind of phrasing, right? So when it comes to the scales, I actually wrote a nice little PDF that you'll find obviously like attached on my Patreon pages. So here are the Aeolian scales, all 5 shapes of them. And if you're interested in the 3 notes per strings, again, lesson 1 to 15 contains it all. So here is written, everything is written in the key of G minor, but don't forget these are shapes. So like the guitar is a transposing instrument. So this is a so-called shape of E minor, because if you look at the blue dots, that's an E minor, as in a shape. If you play this shape at fret number 3, you get G minor, hence the key G minor. You take this entire block and you move it up a tone, now you're playing A. The beauty of the guitar is that it's a transposing instrument. So this is the shape of E minor and the Aeolian scale that goes with it. This is the shape of D minor. Again, you can look at the blue dots as a reference. And still, of course, this is G minor, G minor, G minor, G minor, G minor, and you cover the entire guitar. Let's look now at, we looked at the horizontal structure, so the scale. And let's look at the vertical structure. The vertical structure, as we said over and over, is basically the arpeggio, single note arpeggio, which is still spelled the exact same notes of the scale. So if G Aeolian is 1, 2, flat 3, 4, 5, flat 6, flat 7, 8, literally memorize that. The vertical structure is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, because 2 is equal to 9, 11, because 4 and 11 are the same notes, flat 13 now, because flat 13 is basically flat 6, and then you're back to the root note. So the vertical structure, I can't stress this enough, is literally the same notes of the horizontal structure, just in a different order, is in a stack of interval of thirds. And what's important about it is that it tells you the notes of the arpeggio. So if you're playing pop, more likely you'll be using, say, triads, or dominant 7, like minor 7, so 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7. So, like the guide tones that basically like reflect the chords you're playing. So for G minor, these are arpeggio notes, right? But also the upper structure, so the colors that you can add to your chords, especially certain styles of music allow you that, certain styles less, but I know that because it's 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, and 13. So 9, 11, and flat 7, 9, 11, and 13 are my colors that I can add to my chords or to my arpeggio. Right? And so let's say, for example, G minor. I know I can do G minor 9. I know I can do G minor 9 with a flat 6. It's a nice sounding chord, I like it. I can do G minor 11 in the realm of Aeolian, okay? So I can take an Aeolian chord, and we know Aeolian is chord number 6, and embellish it. Let's say I have a progression. Let's stay in the key of C because A minor is chord number 6. So let's have a progression that goes C major, A minor, D minor, G7. Now this is a 1, 6 to 5 progression, very, very common, in a way a little bit cheesy, but it's okay. It's nice to use it. C major, chord number 1, A minor, chord number 6, D minor, chord number 2, G7, chord number 5. We're all in the key of C, but when it comes to A minor, I know the colors I can add. I can play a big A minor, or I can play A minor with a flat 6 and maybe with a 9. So I start to get sounds like this. C major, A minor. So for G I use the 13, for D minor I use a 9 down here, for A minor I use the flat 6 and the 9, for C major I use the major 7. These are all colors that I'm adding to the arpeggios, to the chords. How do you know what the colors are? Well, we need to go back to our vertical structure. Again, this is something that we looked at in lesson 16. Again, same kind of thing. We're looking at chord number 6. Here it is. This time it's written in the key of G, but no big deal, no change. So as you can see, you have 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, flat 13. And we know it's an A minor if you use just a triad. If you use extended triads, so now E minor 7 here. And then, if you're harmonizing the entire modular arpeggio, you have E minor flat 13. So all these notes. And the upper structure, the colors you can add are 9, 11, and 13. And flat 7, obviously. And in the PDF, again, if you go down, you'll have Aeolian mode, the modular arpeggios on all 5 shapes, obviously. 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, and flat 13, and all possible available, starting from root notes, so you train your ears. The Aeolian mode, just the triad, and this is in common with Dorian. It's pretty much the same thing. This could be G Dorian, this could be G Aeolian. We're on fret number 3. Because, and I cannot stress this enough, Dorian, look at the interval, don't look at the notes. So imagine this was G Dorian and this is G Aeolian. G Dorian will be 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, and 13. So the 6th, natural 6. G Aeolian is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 7, 9, 11, flat 13. So the only difference between these two is that 6th. Everything else is in common. Sorry. Having my throat. Everything else is in common. So like, a minor triad is a minor triad, then, will apply to Dorian when you're working with a chord number 2, and will apply to Aeolian when you're working with a chord number 6. And when we look at Phrygian, that's again, it's going to be a minor chord. So until the flat 7, the 9, and the 11, Dorian and Aeolian, they're actually the same. Once you use the 6th, that's when you have to pay particular attention. If you're playing a chord number 6, you're using a flat 6. If you're playing a chord number 2, you're using a natural 6. That's, it's as easy as that, in a way. As I said, it's simply a one-note difference. So we looked at the vertical structure. Now there is something that we need to talk about in terms of Aeolian. And Aeolian is a particularly important mode because it's the relative minor, so-called relative minor to chord number 1. So if chord number 1 is C, for example, let's look at it in the chart. A minor is chord number 6. So A minor is the relative minor of C. That's also why the Aeolian scale is also called natural minor. So for D major, B minor would be the relative minor. This is important. Besides the scale, to be honest, I find it particularly important when it comes to composing in a way, and the concept of tension resolution in a way. If we look at, I'm going to discuss this further later on, but if you look at the harmonization of a major scale, so let's take C. So let's harmonize C, for example. That's my major scale, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. If the harmonization would end up being like C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G7, A minor, B half diminished, C major, okay? This particular progression, I can mix and match now. I literally did them in order. It's got tension point and resolution point. What I mean by that? In the case of C major, key of C, chord number 5 is tension. So G7 wants to resolve. You can hear it. It wants to go somewhere. And of course, the chord number 1, the C major, is a very strong resolution. Same thing I could say chord number 4 is also some degree of tension. You see how this is resolving? Chord number 2, little tension, resolving into chord number 1. Chord number 7, chord number 1. Now, as you noticed, I haven't used chord number 3 and chord number 6. Well, in particular chord number 6, because also chord number 6 is a resolution point. Some people like to see them as chord number 1 is the happy resolution and chord number 6 is a sad resolution, one because one is major, one is like the other one is minor. But to be honest with you, it's simply like two ways of resolving. Let's do it again. So like G7 wants to go, so chord number 5 wants to go to chord number 1, or chord number 6. Same thing, chord number 4 to chord number 1. One type of resolution. Chord number 4 to chord number 6. Chord number 7 to chord number 6. Chord number 2 to chord number 6. So in other words, within a key you have chords, in particular chord number 5, 4, 2, and 7, which kind of creates different degrees of tension, and they want to resolve somewhere. And in the case of what we're studying today, we're resolving into chord number 6, the relative minor. This idea of relative minor will come back once we're done with the modes. We're going to look at with a good degree of depth into pentatonics. As you noticed, I'm starting from modes as opposed to pentatonics, and trust me, there is a reason. So this idea of relative minor, this concept, bear in mind because it's going to come back. So chord number 6 is the relative minor for chord number 1. as I said, to explain it in layman terms, that is like something that I hope makes you understand the difference. Is, as I say, chord number 1 and chord number 6 are kind of resolution point. You can resolve your progression, and the resolution is a bit like feeling, oh, the song is over and that's the last chord. Also, if you want to look at it on a visual point of view, you can see how these two chords are they contains a lot of notes in common. So this is C major. If I lift off this finger, literally, this is A minor 7. This one note difference is in the bass. That's it. C major, A minor 7. If I wanted literally to do A minor, so this is C major 6. Changing the bass, A minor. You can see how similar they are. And when we study Phrygian, we will see also how this kind of applies also to chord number 3. So for C, E minor. That's E minor with the bass of C. So that, let's keep chord number 3 from when we do Phrygian. So for the moment, Aeolian, chord number 6, relative minor. All good there. In terms of practicing this material, so let's have a look at what you got in terms of, this is harmony and theory, and I'm going to attach this to this lesson. It's already available from lesson 16, but, just in case you missed that out. And, this is kind of theoretical stuff, but it's good that you look at it, these 3, so that you understand what we're talking about. This is like the meat of the point. So you have the Aeolian scale, and the type of exercises you can do, as I say, that, there is many, but you can take a lot of ideas of lesson 1 to 15. Same thing with regards to the modular arpeggios, same thing with regards to the minor triads arpeggios, same things to the Aeolian mode minor 7 arpeggios. Now, let's have a quick word about minor 6. Why did I add minor 6? Well, the thing is, like when we did Dorian, we went into a lot of details regarding arpeggios. I think I did like 10 lessons on Dorian. So we had, say, I'm going to do it in the key of G. We had triad, minor 7, minor 6, minor 7, 9, 6, 9, 11, 13, and we started like, all this kind of stuff, right? If you looked at those lessons, you probably remember all the drills. Because Dorian and Aeolian are so similar, you can still practice the same stuff. You go back to Dorian, the only thing you cannot do is the 6th, because we know that Aeolian has got a flat 6. So in the case of all the chords that you studied for Dorian, they're all valid. All the chords that you studied that don't contain a 6th, they can also apply to Aeolian. All of them. Chords, arpeggios, all of them. But if an arpeggio contains a 6th, now you are defining Dorian. Or if a chord contains a natural 6, you're defining Dorian. If you want to define Aeolian in terms of arpeggios and chords, is your flat 6. So for example, 1, 1, 3, 5, flat 6. This is like an Aeolian arpeggio. Right? Let's look at it on the page, because this also contains an interesting concept. If we look at it, what I just played was 1, flat 3, 5, flat 6. 1, flat 3, 5, flat 6. Something which, feels Aeolian, right? 1, flat 3. But if you remember Aeolian, and this must have been lesson 7, imagine for a second that this flat 6 is actually 1. If this was 1, this is a major 7. If this was 1, this is a 5th. If this was 1, this is a 3. Now you have 1, 3, 5, 1, 3, 5, major 7. 1, 3, 5, major 7. This, if I deleted this note and I started my arpeggio here from the flat 6, this is a major 7 arpeggio, okay? If this is G, this note is E flat. This, what you're looking at, is also E flat major 7, okay? confusing as it sounds, but now you're looking into the world of chord substitutions. So this as you can see sounds like a E major 7, E flat major 7. But it's also your G Dorian, your G Aeolian. Sorry, all these names are confusing the hell out of me after a while. And it's Halloween, and it's late at night. So, as you can see, for G minor chord number 6, we are in the key of B flat. So, G minor is the relative minor of B flat. We are in the key of B flat Ionian. And E flat is chord number 4. So now, as you can see, when I play the G, when arpeggio, which is G minor with a flat 6, I'm actually playing an arpeggio of E flat Ionian, so the chord number 4 for whatever key I'm in. So I could just. And in fact, if you look at the second shape, let's look at it for a second. So again, this is 1, flat 3, 5, flat 6, 1, flat 3. But actually, if you pay attention, flat 6, flat 3, flat 6, 1, all this chord here, this shape, flat 3, this is E flat. Okay? And you'll notice it's going to happen here, it's going to happen here, it's going to happen here. I just wanted to notice it. I mean, it's like, you don't have to remember it, but the day we started discussing chord substitutions, now you see where is that coming from. That's the entire point. The beauty of harmony in theory is sometimes I hear people saying things like, harmony in theory gets in the way of your playing and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, I find it so stupid. To me, it's actually the opposite. Harmony in theory gives you extra words that you can use, and then you can decide if to use them or not. Nobody's, forcing you, done harmony in theory, let me show off this stuff. But say, I have a G minor and I want to give it an Aeolian flavor. I can literally go straight away for E flat. Why do I know that? Well, because harmony in theory told me. Because sometimes when you see it on paper, rather than trying to figure it out on guitar, you see it on paper and then you transfer it on guitar. It makes your life so much easier. So, just to conclude this part, so as you can see, the Aeolian mode, I added the minor flat 6 arpeggios because that's like the main difference that you have with Dorian. So Dorian, you will have arpeggios with a natural 6, and here you have the ones with a flat 6, and that's the only difference. The rest of the arpeggios that you can apply to Aeolian are the same. So to Aeolian, you can still apply minor 7, minor 9, minor 11, same as Dorian. Difference? When it comes to chords, the idea is exactly the same. So I have here a bunch of chords. Actually, there is a misspell here, I just noticed it. I hope you'll forgive me. So here is your first shape, second shape. I left the scale, so you have a reference, a scale and then a chord, because we're looking at all 5 shapes at once. So here you go, you have 3 pages. But the chords I added, say for shape of E, I only added chords compared to Dorian, once again, that has a flat 6 in them, okay? That way you can, study some chords that have a kind of an Aeolian flavor to them, in this case. And so, of course, all the chords that you studied for Dorian, so minor 7, minor 9, minor 11, and any combination, 7, 11, 7, 9, 9, 11, they also work in Aeolian. Those intervals are also contained in Aeolian. But once again, the difference, if I play this kind of chord, so G minor with a 6th, that sound. This is kind of a Dorian type of sound. Flat 6. That's kind of an Aeolian. So in terms of highlighting some chords you can study, so basically you can add to the knowledge you created when you studied Dorian. Now you can add an extra color, and it's an Aeolian color. Of course, that is if you studied Dorian. if you're seeing these lessons for the first time, some of this stuff is going to look incredibly confusing, I guess. But, we build a little bit at a time. I post these YouTube lessons every 3 weeks, which gives you enough time to digest things. And if you're starting if you're seeing this for the first time, it's still interesting to have a look at the PDFs and stuff, but you might want to start from lesson number 1. And the PDFs are free to download until I think lesson 28, so it's a lot of stuff. And now I'm using like Patron. In fact, I want to thank all the few people who are actually supporting this project. Is incredibly valuable that you are. I really appreciate it. And if you're new and you want to support this project, your contribution is very welcome. And just have a look in the video description and you'll find a link to Patreon and all the options and that kind of stuff. Before we go, again, we want to practice this stuff. Actually, if anything, beside practicing, we want to play these things. And a good progression, for example, we can use is progressions that stay in one key and resolve into chord number 6. In that case, I can run my Aeolian scales, my arpeggios, and because that's the resolution point. And say, for example, in the key of C, we know the chords are C major, D minor, F major, G7, A minor, B off diminished. I can take a progression that goes 4, 5, 6. So I have in the key of C, I would have a C. Maybe I'll do 2 bars. As you can see, you can feel how this progression 4, 5, 6 is resolving into chord number 6. It's resolving in minor, right? It could have resolved into chord number 1, right? Different vibe. So what you can do basically, as an exercise, you can, for example, I have a drone, so just a drone, A minor, so I'm going to use A. And you can run your scale arpeggios off it. And I'm only using, I'm trying to at least, Aeolian scales, okay? So. In there. Same thing for the arpeggio. So you can literally play freely and try and see what kind of ideas you can come up with. Of course, this is after you've done, exercises with them, right? But I think it's important that you express your creativity. And a good way to do it is maybe not straight away put a lot of chords together, but literally one. And stay on it for half an hour and see what happens, see where that leads. Take a simple idea and maybe, move it around. So like, I don't know, let's take for example, this kind of the chromatic finger. Or the idea, literally take a progression which has an Aeolian type of resolution. So a chord progression that resolves around Aeolian. I gave you an example, F, G to A. In this case, let me see, I might use. So let's, I'm sorry, I'm just checking this here. Let's use, I'm going to use a loop, see what happens there. So why don't you please give you a few ideas on what you can do in terms of practicing these sounds. I'm going to upload probably in a day or two this progression. Like I'll do a backing track F, G, A minor in 12 keys, So chord number 4, 5, and 6, so that you can practice these kind of things and these Aeolian type of sounds. And the 12 keys version, I'll upload it to my Patron page, so be on the lookout for that. Before we leave, once again, I would like to thank the Patron supporters that makes this thing kind of possible in a way. We can get all the help that that we can. I don't know if that's even an expression. I also want to thank all the people on YouTube who subscribe to the channel. It's nice to see shows of appreciation for what I'm doing. And most important, enjoy playing. This is, this is all about playing, and that's the spirit of this entire idea. I hope you enjoyed the lesson. If anything, I hope you learned something out of it. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. And until next time, happy Halloween.